Hey traders, Raghee here. Always good to remove the lens cap. How are you all doing? Happy Monday, everybody. Um, I was watching, as I'm sure a lot of you were as well, the weather over the weekend. Being a Floridian since 1983, I'll tell you what, we had a storm go through my area. We actually had the eye go over the area, and it was only a 2. So definitely thoughts going out to folks in the path of Ida. That is a nasty storm going through. So I know a lot of you are probably know folks in that path. Yeah, it's a tough thing. It's really interesting. Once it goes through, the coverage starts to wane after a little while, but the cleanup, the lack of electricity, no food on the shelves, the gasoline shortages, it's pretty surreal, and definitely makes you appreciate the stuff you have when you have it. So again, those of you that are affected by, I know you're not online today, but definitely thinking of you guys. Now, having said that, I used to have, and I still do, living in Florida, you knew at some point that you're going to lose power, you're going to lose electricity, you're going to lose internet, you're going to lose cable. Just tick-tock. It's a matter of time. And there was always that one last trade that I would put on as some storm was barreling down the east coast of South Florida, where I live and where I have lived for a lot of years now. And there's a few trades that I would always try to put on before the lights went out. My husband and I would say, "Hey, you get your lights out trades yet?" "Yep, got them." It would be long certain stocks that tended to move higher. It was long things like, crude, not so much for the East Coast, but if I saw a storm going up into the Gulf, you've got your refineries along the coast there, you've got your rigs. So, even me, who I knew, there's a good chance I'd be out for hours, if not days, in terms of power. I still put certain trades on. And so that has not changed. The trajectory of the storms are going to move certain markets. You're going to see that into the storm and leading out of the storm. So, I look at it both as someone who's dealt with the weather and someone who wants to trade this weather event as well. So, think about that. And then, if you feel like, oh gosh, I'm really trading the storm narrative. Yeah. And then, hey, the folks are going to need the help. Take some of those profits, as I will be with crude. We had a great run higher in crude. And help those folks out, because they are going to need it. So anyways, happy Monday, everybody. And great to see you all as always. Let's start off with our first question. Hey there, Kip, how are you? In a small account where I can only buy one option at a time, how do I handle scaling out? Well, let's go back to scaling in. And by the way, if scaling out and scaling in are sort of foreign concepts, check out Friday's free video over at the Simpler Trading YouTube channel. And I talked about scaling out and scaling in specifically, why that's so important. So Kip, there's really two things that are coming to mind first. The first is a lot of the options that I will trade are pretty darn inexpensive. So $200-300. So you might then have a threshold, you might run it through some sort of Excel file and have a threshold for what is affordable. That question of what is affordable is a huge question, and is not one size fits all. It's not a ball cap, right? It's not one size fits all. So in the beginning, if you're trading a small account, or if you want to trade a small account, right? Not everybody has to trade a small account. They want to maybe sometimes take it slow, and I think that's very prudent as well. So have the threshold of what the option cost line of the sand is. If it's, say, for example, over $400, it's a no trade. That's really easy. So I would say if you can only trade one contract, my advice is don't. If you can only trade one contract, my advice would be wait for a less expensive contract to come along. But let's say you're in a trade and you traded the one contract. First target, first exit, thank the market very much. And remember, you are in some rare air. You've extracted profits from the market. Okay. That's not as common as one would think. So even though, yes, I'm a trend trader and I want to be able to take that ride for as long, again, living in South Florida, surfing's a thing. Skipped many a day senior year up off in Sebastian surfing. So I don't want to jump off the wave halfway through the ride. Find my set, paddle out, and ride it as far as I can. That's what a trend trader, trend follower does. But if you've got the one contract, just take it for as far as you can. First target, get out. The only other thing I would suggest, and I don't love this idea, but I'll put it out there. First target, trail a tight stop. And that would be the way I would say, I don't advise it, but those would be tactics you can use to kind of help navigate that one lot position size. And I do not recommend usually one lot, at least pairs. But I think you know that. Thanks for the question. All right, Dan, good morning. When tapering begins, likely in November, does that mean that we will see a decline in ZBTLT? And if so, can we go long puts? Well, Dan, let's talk about discounting. And a lot of you know, if you don't, I'll tell you right now, we've been long bonds for a while. We got long bonds. This will be the fourth, fifth time. We just continue to follow what has generally been a double green, if not even when it segues to yellow, more neutral. The trend that preceded was double green. So the only things I can do, things, plural, I can be flat and say I don't want to trade the double yellow, or I could buy. There's no short here for me yet. And I don't know if it's going to happen. Now, if you and I are talking about it, friend, if we're talking about tapering coming, the market is a forward-looking discounting mechanism regardless of the symbol. It's always looking ahead. It's always discounting what it knows is coming. And, well, kind of like hurricane preparation, right? I know the storm is coming. I don't know if it's going to hit my area. But nonetheless, I've gassed up the cars. I've closed the hurricane shutters. I make sure I've got the water, make sure I've got gas for the generators. You know, I prepare. That preparation and market lingo is discounting, or even more colloquially, baking into the cake. We know this. We're talking about this. If that is what the market thinks is going to happen, you're already seeing a lethargy, right? Higher highs are not coming around. So is this a very, very slow W or M? So that's the question. I look for M's at the top, W's at the bottom. I also look for a 3-stage compressed market before a breakout or breakdown. And we're seeing the beginning of that. We're seeing the very beginning of that as well. Right now, I would not presume the markets are going to go lower. But let's say you do want to take that short. Okay. If you want to take that short, you've got to find the upper end of the range and not just kind of guess somewhere in the middle, but say, hey, next time we test 166, or definitely if we test 167, and my expectation is for the markets to go lower, that bullish momentum along with the ceiling, bullish Momo plus ceiling, that is your overbought zone. That if you want to dig your heels in, put your shorts on, that's a low-cost zone to do it. How do you find a low-cost zone? Find a level, find a zone that's as close to the point of validity for the trade as possible. So that's what I would say. But I'm still long, so I'll probably look for the next level. This volume ledge, point of control, previous highs, right at the 66 again. Kind of boring at this point, but notice it keeps compressing. So yes, there is definitely less bullishness than there was before. And those series of lower highs are I think, one of the many cues. That and the frequency with which we keep going to double yellow. So thank you for the question, Dan. Andres asks, UDR and IYR. UDR, probably a breakout in the making. IYR is, I would stick with the long side. Notice no red grab candles. Why do I love the grab? Green, red, and blue candles. I love them because they visually remind me of what the path of least resistance is. So I have predominantly green, 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 right? Little bit of blue. That's a slight bit of neutral sentiment, not bearish sentiment, neutral sentiment coming in. So I would still look for dip buys. I would look for a blue grab candle, and then I would look to buy into that dip. Is it anywhere near the top of my list? Here's what I would say if you're looking at IYR or even XLRE relatedly. I like XLRE a little bit better. Go into IYR, go into XLRE, and find your relative outperformers. I can tell you from my watch list, XLRE, PLD, PSA, SBAC are all looking like relative outperformers. Do that process in IYR and find those relative outperformers. You might find that the boat, an individual stock, is actually superior to the tide, the overall sector, or the index. So thank you for the question. Again, as I'm talking about grab candles, it just reminds me that, and this is coming up, the 10th and the 13th, we have 2 sessions of live trading. I'm going to cover intraday and end of day setups using the indicators that you see on my chart. So if you haven't checked it out already and you want to join me for those live trading sessions, and oh yeah, by the way, get all the different indicators that you see on my screen right now. Check out simplertrading.com/Raghee -workspace-bundle. So I'm super stoked for the lot. You know, we've had the bundle out there forever, for a really long time, but the live sessions are what I'm really excited about for you guys to have the indicators, and then we'll walk through them together in a live environment, alerts and all. So really looking forward to that, the 10th and the 13th. All right, next up, Dimitri asks, please advise. I've got all your tools already after the day trading class. Oh, very cool. I have no idea, Dimitri. So if you wanted to join me for the live sessions, that's a really good question. I have no idea. That's way above my pay grade. But here's what I do know, Dimitri. We have an amazing staff back at the mothership in Austin. Contact one of the customer support folks. Tell them, hey, I just took Raghee's day trading class. I've got the goodies, and what can you do? Ask them. I don't know, my friend. That's a good question, though. And I'm sure you're not the only one with it. Yeah. Okay. So next up is, and by the way, the number for the, if you didn't know, for those of you who don't know, the number for the office is on the homepage of simplertrading.com. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll see all that good stuff. All right. So next up is, next question. Hey there, Tim. Does Natty Gas have any more bullish gas? Great question. So let's go take a look at Natty, which we've had a long position in the mastery, with a trailing stop at this point. And we've already hit the first target. It launched in our favor. It was already a 2x trade. I did a video on this trade for those of you that are not aware of the trade that Tim is referring to. Thursday or Wednesday, I did a 2x momentum free video at the Simpler Trading YouTube channel. Check that out and walk through the whole Natty Gas setup. And the cool thing with this Natty Gas setup is it was really where the pullback in a Momo sort of dovetailed, and XLF has done that this year. That monster trade in Google did the same pattern. So recognize this pattern. It is going to serve you very well throughout your career. That's on the free video at the Simpler Trading YouTube. I think it's called 2x momentum something or other. So I've got a trailing here. Does it have more to go? A lot of the refining, if you pull up a refining map, you'll see all the pipelines that are just, literally tracing the outline of around the Gulf and the East Coast as well. But again, remember, since we knew this storm was coming, clearly we know there's going to be an effect, and the market will jump ahead out of that, in front of that narrative. And, knock on wood, if the aftermath is not as bad, these markets will drop, as what was discounted was not nearly as bad as what happened. You know what? This is probably one of those times I don't mind getting trailing stopped out, because we've already taken a profit. Trailing stops are the safety net. They help us lock in a profit. This is probably one of those times that I don't mind being trailing stopped out, because if the market is perceiving that the damage, hopefully, that was done is not as bad as what was feared, I can think of worse things. So yeah, I will not be surprised if it moves lower. Is there more to go? I would not say there's a setup right now. So I would say, I don't know. I have a trailing stop. At worst, we have a break even. We've already scaled out. So now we just look to see, well, what comes next. But, again, remember, this is going to be affected by Ida, by Hurricane Ida. Next question. Dan asks, I've been looking at XLP and XLU, as have I, friend. Yep, XLP, XLU. Now, in the weekly watch list, this week I'm up. It's my turn. And in the weekly watch list, I talked about there's two ways to look at this. And by the way, right now, and again, I had a video sometime back that differentiated. There's a lot of market lingo out there that we use. And sometimes the meaning gets sort of washed away because it just becomes lingo that we use that has lost, punch in terms of what it's trying to communicate. Market rotation is one of them. Macro and market rotation, those are just used ad nauseum without a real definition of what that means. So macro, you've heard me talk about before, macroeconomic analysis of inflation growth. You can throw as a fifth pillar employment, monetary policy, and money supply on a rate of change basis. That's macroeconomics. Google macroeconomics, right? Just Google it. And Google explains it better than most traders do. It's hilarious at this point how meaningless the word macro has become. So putting that aside, market rotation is pretty much in competition with that. To rotate means something at the top has to go to the bottom, something from the bottom goes to the top. So it's rotating, right? We are not seeing market rotation right now. And if you're a member of the Simple Trading community, this week's watch list is moi, and I talk a lot about why this is more of a participation market and not one that is rotating. You see very little rotation in this market right now. If you and I'm talking about end of day, look back of about a month to the last quarter. So the reason I bring that up, Dan, thank you for asking about XLP and XLU. Number one, we are not seeing a bunch of panic in this market because XLP and XLU are where people go to hide out. I do think there's some interesting opportunities here. XLP and XLU, Procter & Gamble, Pepsi, Walmart, Estee Lauder. Then with utilities, I like utilities, not broadly at the tide level, but you've got a lot of individual names. Well, I shouldn't say I don't like utilities at the tide level. That's not fair. But there is a lot to like in utilities. And by the way, I'm positioned in both XLP and XLU long because I wanted to be positioned a little bit more defensively in front of Powell rather than offensively. So I wanted to go to that place that would have more resilience in case the you-know-what hit the fan. So I like them, but they're going to be sort of catch-up plays. They're going to be plays where, because this is not a market that's showing signs of rotation, it's showing signs of participation. We're not seeing elevator down on one hand, or I like to use a Ferris wheel analogy. We're not seeing the Ferris wheel analogy at all. Someone at the top is now heading down to the bottom view, and some of the bottom view is heading up to the top view. Ain't happening. We're seeing participation. So having said that, this would have to be the wider risk appetite tide, lifting all the boats, even the boats that aren't sexy when there's risk appetite. So I do like it. But it's going to be a little slower. But that's good. One of the reasons you play XLPs and XLUs are not because you're waiting for that high beta, high Momo, runs like we see in XLK or XLC or even XLY. It's because you're being a little bit more prudent. And so, that's the way I would look at that. All right. Next up is, let's see. Oh, did I have the wrong date? Well, you know what today is. Yeah, it happens. I've only done about 200 of these shows. I appreciate that, though. I'm going to die on a hill of typos. I will say that, but thank you, John. What about NEE, AEP, and ES? And I like AEP. Yeah, I do, Tony. NEE, that's all part of the XLU. So if you do a multi, here, let's see if we can't do this right now. If you do a multi-scan on XLU, give me a moment while this populates. But what we're doing is we're pulling up the broader narrative, the sector, XLU utilities, and then the top 11 weighted stocks, high concentration weighting. And you'll see where we have the double greens. We have it at the tide level. We have it at a number of individual boat levels. So it's really a matter of what don't we like right now. So I'm with you. But we need the pullback. But those do look good. I agree with you. So if there are enough individual names in a sector in an index that are all looking quite well structured bullishly, I'll then go for the tide if I can. If not, if it's still sort of hit or miss, then I'll go with an individual boat. So I appreciate that. Thank you for the question. JD asks, yeah, JD, we're over 300 and yeah, I think we're 3, whatever we are. Thank you. I'll smash that like button. I appreciate that. Thank you, JD. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, smash that like button. And then, of course, by the way, if you're catching this later, and you weren't part of the live Q&A, you can leave a comment or a question at the YouTube channel. So please feel free to do so. Okay, so if you're catching this later, if you're catching this on replay, thank you for watching. If you're reviewing this and you have a question, leave it in the comment section, okay? All right, so let me leave it with this question because the show's just about out of time. Where do I get the trading calendar for the week? I like to use the calendar over at Forex Factory. I like a global calendar. I use Forex Factory for the data. Trading Economics is good too, but I've been using Forex Factory for a lot of years. Another one's good come earnings season is Estimize, but that's a different conversation. But forexfactory.com. All right. Thanks as always for joining us for Charts and Coffee. Great to see you all as always. Stay safe out there if you're anywhere in the path of the storm. And I will see you all tomorrow. Okay. Be good to each other. Talk with you soon.